right, hello everybody. My name is Casey Kern, and I'm very pleased to speak with you today. I'm a product manager at Senbird, and Senbird is a Silicon Valley-based software company, and we provide a leading platform for in-app chat, voice, and video calls for web and for mobile. So in-app engagement and retention are very important areas of interest for us. Those are really the problems that we're trying to solve. So, we always try to participate to whatever extent we can at these kinds of meetings and conferences and keep up on things. Previously in this conference, we've already heard from Fit and Reddit about community building. And my topic today is going to dovetail very much with those topics, in the sense of once you have built a community, the next challenge is to engage that community. And the modern way to engage and to grow users within an app is this concept of social engagement, which I'm going to dive into. So we have a pretty simple agenda for this presentation. One, we want to talk about the world that we live in and what we are as human beings, and what that means about with respect to social engagement. Next, the concept of the modern app as we understand it right now, and how we build experiences around community in modern apps. And then finally, we'll get into some things that we've done with Senbird's customers, and some of the stories that we have to tell in terms of the impact that customers have been able to achieve relative to social engagement. So first, let's talk about social engagement and how it powers the world. Okay, so when we think of social engagement, it may sound like a buzzword that's being thrown around at tech conferences, but actually social engagement predates anything related to technology, and it's really at the core of what we are as human beings, that we are social creatures. Now, even at the very beginnings of technology and computing, we saw things like this. Now, if you look at what I'm showing right here, on the left, you have Pong, one of the original arcade games. And, depending on what generation you're from, you may have memories of going into video game arcades and kind of being part of that community, which really is a social thing. And one thing that these arcade games did very early on, even before networking, before multiplayer, before any of that, was high score lists with initials. And that was something that kept people engaged in the activity, and even in the community. It was who's got the high score on which machines, and that created feedback loops that then made these video arcades a very vibrant and a successful both successful business and successful community. So, with that concept, we just have to acknowledge that we live in a world that's really powered by social interactions, even when there's other things going on. That 5 billion people in the world connect with one another via chat, voice, and video every day. Okay, and messenger apps. If you were to pick up your phone right now and turn it on and look at the apps on your home screen, and then maybe test your muscle memory. Where does your hand reach to first? You may find that it might be WhatsApp, it might be Telegram, it may be Facebook Messenger, because a lot of our interaction and our relationship management with our friends and family and colleagues happens on these messenger apps. That these are the stickiest apps, that they are really are the benchmark for user engagement, because that is where social interactions are occurring. And this isn't just millennials and kids these days, right? Every single age group is using their devices in this way. If you've ever participated in getting someone from an older generation connected with technology, one of the first things that they want to do is, how can I call my grandkids on this? How can I see my family? How can I interact and send messages to my loved ones? Because this is really an intergenerational thing, and it is universal, really universal to the human experience. So let's see how this trend, or even just this aspect of of being human and having those human needs met in a app context, how they're affecting various industries. So here's an e-commerce site. You may be familiar with this type of experience where you browse a catalog and you make decisions, shopping decisions based on that. Well, if you were to check in on Eastern context, for example, in China, what you would find is something like this. This app shopping experience isn't just browsing a catalog. You're there with other people, and you can react to and comment on and get feedback from and sense demand for these various products that are being presented in real time, or in a real time relative to the people that you're talking to. So what so the actual social experience is becoming integral to e-commerce. And we're also seeing something similar in value exchange communities with payments and whatnot. You may have been familiar with PayPal for a long time, where it's very, very transactional, but maybe more recently you're familiar with Venmo or other tools that have a more social component to them, where the transaction is then part of a conversation. It has more context to it rather than an isolated transaction screen. In some cases, we've even seen communities spin off into entire commercial entities. The beauty brand Glossier started out as a blog, and thanks to the very vibrant and engaged community, was able to expand, and the market was already there. So pivoting into an actual brand almost became a natural byproduct of the community engagement. So these are the forces at play, and this is some of the impact that's possible, and even some of the trends that we're seeing. Like the live commerce thing hasn't really picked up in Western nations yet, but given the success and the traction it's gotten in other regions, that's definitely a trend, and that everyone should be aware of, and we should identify what are the factors that make this successful. So this kind of brings us to the idea of a modern app. And what we're referring to here is kind of the current generation. I can't say exactly what an app or technology generation cycle is, but I think we have an intuitive sense of maybe every 5 to 6 years, if you take a snapshot of the app and technology and website landscape, things are going to have a different look and feel. So the place that we're at right now, we're seeing a lot of success with a certain category of app, and I want to highlight a few right here. Pinduoduo is one of them. They are a social shopping app. The idea is bring your friends on a shopping experience, on a virtual shopping experience, and the more friends you get, the more friends you bring, the more discount you get, and then the more exposure the marketplace gets. So it's kind of a win-win for both sides. And the impact is that there's this social shopping experience. Now, you may be aware that shopping malls have been in the decline for many years, largely due to e-commerce. But shopping malls were never just a commercial entity to begin with. They also had a very important social function. You went to the mall to go shopping with your friends, and as you went shopping, you could get your friends' opinions and recommend things, and get a sense of demand and trends and where the merchandise fits into the broader social and societal context. And much of that is lost in e-commerce, but we're seeing an emerging trend that these things are kind of being brought back into that experience, and the result is incredible amounts of engagement. Now, TikTok is another example. We've seen the components of TikTok. None of them are new. Music videos, social networking, community building around a short format, user-generated content. But what we're seeing is that the implementation, where they've really been able to put that social engagement into the mix has just provided explosive growth. On the gaming side, Fortnite has really stood out largely due to the social aspects that they've been able to bring into their games. This isn't just multiplayer. They're really able to engage communities in ways that other games and other gaming communities and gaming platforms have not been able to. Clubhouse is another rising trend, so to speak, but really it's in the same space as maybe podcasts and audiobooks and long form audio. The difference is you can drop in, you can drop out. There's the live component, and there's the in certain contexts you can then participate in it and become a part of the conversation. Public is another example. They're kind of a retail investment um, uh, application, but their success and their growth has been largely due to the social component as well, where you have a news feed type component as well as in-app messaging, and it's really created a different experience around very common and very well-worn transactional items. And Strava, we just heard about the fitness industry in the previous talk. This is similar, where people will go in to track their run, or to get some analytics about their fitness, but the social component says you can see, well, what other hikes, what other runs, what other bike rides are my friends doing, and can you join a challenge, can you train for a race, and do those kinds of things. So a lot of these functional experiences are now built around communities, and these things all really have two things in common. And if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this, it would be this. There are two components here, and one of them is a transactional layer and the other one is a social layer, and the social layer lives inside the transactional layer. And that's key, because previously you had the transactional apps and then you have social apps, and there's been all kinds of efforts to create integrations between the two and things like that. But the real success and the real power that we see in terms of social engagement is when the social layer exists entirely inside the transactional layer. Also, from a user engagement perspective, people come into the app for a very specific purpose: to do a transaction, to track their run, to buy some stock, to whatever it might be. This is goal oriented. I am here with a specific objective, but they stay for the social component. And a lot of restaurants kind of follow the same business model. You can think of it that way. Come for the mood. I'm sorry. Come for the food. Stay for the mood. Stay for the ambiance. Stay for the social experience. That a restaurant is very much transactional, but the social layer is inside of that transaction, and that's what keeps people coming back. And that lesson applies here to app development and to community building. So, this concept is being called social plus apps by venture capitalists and whatnot, with the idea of the best version of every product is one that is intrinsically social. Okay, and the beauty of the social plus is that embedding the social interaction within your product or your app, it allows you to own that conversation, and then your community is built around it. So in the absence of this social layer on the inside, what do users do? They're going to go to Discord. They're going to go to WhatsApp. They're going to go to Telegram. They're going to go, somewhere else where you don't control the conversation, and the feedback loop then can get broken, that otherwise would then be able to feed into increased transactions, increased growth, increased success by whatever metric you're utilizing as an app. So the components of a modern social plus apps are largely, one, the social graph is purpose built for the product. And this is different than what we've seen before, where apps will be built on top of other social communities. And we've seen this with gaming. You may remember Farmville and Words with Friends and stuff that were largely built on Facebook's network, which is fine, which was great for user acquisition and things like that. But ultimately, when policies change or integrations get broken, that can make the entire business model collapse. So the first thing is you need to have the social graph as part of the product itself. The second thing is the social graph has to actually be critical to the product. And so this rules out anything like, oh, well, you can email this to your friends, or you can, share this on Facebook. No, that is not critical to your product. That then just becomes a sideshow. Critical to your product means that the actual transaction has to um, connect in with a social experience of some form, whether that's, like we've seen, a payment appears then in a chat window, or with gaming there's all kinds of creative ways of doing that, but it has to be critical to the product, meaning that if you remove it, your product basically doesn't exist anymore, which is not the case for something that's more just window dressing, that is a nice to have. And then the last thing is authentic peer-to-peer social engagement. The way I define this is something that cannot be duplicated with a bot. Okay, psychologically, humans react differently when they sense that another human is on the other side of their interaction. And bots cannot duplicate this. If you know about the Turing test, we're nowhere near being able to achieve that. Okay, but when there's another person that they know, that just the neurochemistry of users, and also just the psychological impact of knowing that there is another person that is aware and involved in a particular transaction, changes behavior at its core. And so this is where real-time chat, and also even voice calls and video and live streaming, that's what we're talking about. These social plus apps really need this authentic peer-to-peer social engagement. And so the benefits, if you do this right, there's three main benefits that we can quantify here. One, the first one is increase stickiness and engagement. Like I mentioned before, the stickiness is which apps do you keep coming to, and why do you keep doing it? And especially if your app is really socially beneficial at its core. For example, exercise, or as we saw before with fitness, as opposed to wasting time or wasting money. That you are actually improving people's lives by encouraging them to come back. And that, of course, relates directly back into retention. Of if there's a community, if there are people that they had positive interactions with, that they might be able to have more positive interactions with, they're likely to return. And I touched on this a little bit earlier. This is where you get the growth loops, right? Because you have the transactional layer and you have the social layer. The transactional layer leads to the social layer, but the social layer will then create a feedback loop that then brings it back into increased transactions, which of course then connects back into the social experience. So this is really the main philosophical underpinnings of what makes Sendbird tick at its core. That social engagement is what we try to help apps and app creators have success with. And to do this right, it takes a lot of infrastructure. It takes a lot of very polished apps. These apps like WhatsApp and Telegram and Messenger, they have enormous budgets and huge development teams really making a great user experience. And it's almost impossible for just a dev shop to be doing chat on the side, and really create the type of experience that users have become accustomed to through these apps. And that's where we really come in and make that as easy as possible to integrate that level of experience. And that's what Reddit has found success with. If you're a Reddit user, you may have noticed that for some time subreddits have had chat rooms associated with them, and you can also do live chat with users as opposed to just static direct messages. And the 30-day user retention, which is a metric that Reddit tracks, has seen significant increase after the introduction of this. So Paytm is another example where they used to just be a digital wallet, but they have then kind of transformed into this P2P payments community, and their monthly active users has just gone through the roof. Hinge is a dating app, and they recently introduced video calling and voice calling as part of the matchmaking experience. And the majority of Hinge users found the experience positive, and they'd say they do it again, that this was a great way to meet people in a very low pressure setting, before meeting in person, or especially in a social distancing situation where a face-to-face meeting may not be feasible. So Traveloka, we power live stream for them. They're an Indonesian travel marketplace, and they had this huge travel sale back in November, and it live streamed events to over 1 million people across Indonesia. And what they did was they featured their travel partners, their hosts, celebrities, and influencers, and they all came together in the Traveloka app and interacted with customers. They shared coupons and discounts, announced giveaways, and they saw a 70x increase in traffic from their previous year. So not only did this live chat increase engagement in the app, but it also increased consumer interest, brand awareness, boosted sales. You know, the entire travel industry benefited from the engagement that was achieved through this. So, you know, at its core, Sendbird, our mission is to create connections in a digital world, right? So these authentic peer-to-peer social engagements, the chat, the voice calls, and the video calls, and is really what we provide the fully managed back end for any app, and then tools to be able to integrate very quickly and easily into existing apps, fully white labeled. You know, the most Sendbird users, you know, we track our monthly users, really don't even know that they're users because it's all done through branded apps from other brands. But you know, we provide the APIs and the SDKs for developers to be able to create the base level capabilities to do this type of social engagement. And you know, this applies across many industries. You know, social and community, maybe for obvious reasons, is really where a lot of the value is found. But you know, it applies to other industries as well. For example, I mean, here we have payments and marketplace and on-demand and digital healthcare, and you can see some of the brands and the logos that are leveraging the Sendbird platform to be able to, you know, do what I just explained there. They already have a transactional layer, but by owning the social component inside of their app experience and inside of their brand experience, they're able to you know, create those loops that really just changes the game for social engagement. So you know, so this applies to all these verticals, and you know, healthcare, telemedicine has been a rising trend, of course. You know, with the marketplace and these e-commerce and live commerce, we've already mentioned that, and of course, can't forget gaming, kind of back where we started. The social engagement in a technological context maybe started with the high score list here in gaming, but we have definitely come a long ways since there. Both in the gaming industry and in others as well. So I'll leave it at that. Again, there's two things that you should remember. It's just those two aspects of what makes a social plus community. The transactional layer, and that's going to be tied to an actual business model, and then the social layer, and that's what's really gonna ignite the engine of engagement and is gonna really transform the results and the bottom line of what's happening on the transactional layer as well. So I'll leave it at there, and I will be happy to take some questions now.
Great, thanks, Casey. That was really interesting. Reminded of this book I had on my shelf, the Clue Train Manifesto from 1999, where they're talking about making e-commerce at the time and whatever internet we had more social. And seems like you have the manifesto for the new generation. So that's great. So let's get on to some questions. So Gianmarco is asking, well, obvious example, what about Spotify? Why aren't they using this social engagement? Are they lacking it?
Well, I can't speak for Spotify itself, but I think you know, if you look at other social oriented apps, I'm thinking specifically Last FM. They're kind of a, you know, music that's more about tracking your usage. But if the social layer is Last FM and the transactional layer is Spotify, I mean, think of the the power that could exist if those were really one app. If Spotify really did the Last FM model inside of it, I just can't. I think they would see a whole lot more engagement now, and discovery of music and like,
Yeah.
why aren't they? Good question.
What's the next step? And I think Yoni's got a question as well. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, if you want to know more about Sembird, or you want to find out how social engagement may apply to your app, you're welcome to contact us, sembird.com. Also, on social medias where you can find us. Yeah, and even if it's not even on your roadmap now, but you just want to just kind of see what the possibilities might be, we're welcome. You're welcome to talk with us.
Great. Well, great session, and thanks for beaming in live from South Korea.
My pleasure.
Great.